My twin sister stole my essay and ruined my life. Years later, she seduced my fiancé and married him. But now he discovered the truth, and he's trapped in a marriage he can never escape. I'm 27 years old. I work as a freelance graphic designer, and I need to tell this story because what happened a year and a half ago basically destroyed what I thought was my perfect life. I guess I should start at the beginning. When I was a kid and still didn't understand that my family was never going to love me the same way they loved my twin sister. Chloe and I are identical. Like literally the same face, the same body, everything the same. But for as long as I can remember, my parents treated her like she was made of gold, and I was made of cheap plastic. I'm not exaggerating. Seriously. It's something that everyone around us noticed. But nobody said out loud because, it's awkward to tell parents they're being shitty to one of their kids. I remember perfectly when I was like 8 years old and we both wanted ballet classes, but my parents said they could only afford one, and obviously they chose Chloe because she had more natural talent or some excuse like that. I ended up doing nothing while I watched my sister go to classes twice a week. Or when we turned 15 and Chloe had a huge party with a DJ and the whole show, and when my turn came, because we have the same birthday, right? My parents said they'd already spent too much on her party, and mine would be something simple at home. It was basically a lunch with the family, where everyone congratulated Chloe on how incredible her party had been the week before. Can you believe it? My own quinceañera became an extension of my sister's celebration. The thing is, this happened throughout my entire childhood and adolescence. On every birthday, every Christmas, every school event. Chloe always got the new clothes while I wore the things that didn't fit her anymore, or that she didn't want. My parents went to all her school presentations but always had some excuse not to go to mine. When we both wanted the same toy, guess who got it? When there was only one piece of dessert, guess who it was for? And the worst part of it all is that Chloe knew it. She knew perfectly well that she was the favorite and she enjoyed it. Sometimes she'd look at me with that little smile when our parents chose to give something to her instead of me, like saying, "Look, they love me more than you." So we grew up like that, with her being the princess of the house and me being basically the shadow that nobody noticed unless I made some mistake. And looking back, I should have seen it coming. I should have known that eventually Chloe would do something really horrible because a whole life being spoiled turns you into a person who believes that everything belongs to them, including things that belong to other people. But at that time, I just wanted to get out of that house and start a life where someone would value me, where I could be someone's first choice for a change. When it came time to apply to universities, we both wanted to go to the same one, a decent university about 3 hours from home. I worked like crazy on my application essay. Like I spent weeks writing it and rewriting it because I knew it was my ticket out. I wrote about growing up feeling invisible in my own family, but finding my voice through art and design. It was honest and vulnerable and really good, according to everyone who read it. Chloe, on the other hand, didn't do shit until 2 days before the deadline, and then she panicked because she didn't have anything written. I had already sent my application, so my essay was saved on my computer in a file that was called something obvious like Final University Essay. I didn't realize it at the time, but Chloe got into my laptop when I was in the shower, copied my entire essay, changed some words here and there so it wouldn't be exactly identical, and submitted it as hers. I found out like 2 weeks later when we were talking about our essays with a cousin who was also applying, and Chloe started describing her essay, and I thought, wait, that sounds exactly like mine. I asked her to let me read it, and when I saw it, I almost threw up right there. It was my essay, my experiences, my words. Only she had changed some details to make it seem like she was talking about herself instead of me. I told her, hey, this is literally my essay. You know that, right? And she just shrugged and said, well, there are shared experiences. We grew up together. It's basically the same thing. And I was there like, no, it's not the same thing. This is my essay about my feelings. You can't just steal it. But she didn't see it that way, and when I told my parents expecting that for once in their lives they would support me, you know what they said? They said I was exaggerating. That Chloe had only used the essay as inspiration, that sisters share things, and that I was being selfish and dramatic. Selfish. For not wanting my sister to steal my work and present it as hers to get into college. I spent like a week feeling horrible, not knowing what to do because on one hand I didn't want to ruin my sister's opportunities. But on the other hand, I was so angry because this was completely unfair. But then I thought, you know what? My whole life I've let her get away with it. My whole life I've accepted being the second choice, being the one who gets less. being the one who doesn't matter. And if I let this pass without doing anything, I'm basically telling her it's okay to keep treating me like garbage. So I reported the plagiarism to the university with all the evidence I had, the drafts with date and timestamps on my computer, the files saved weeks before the deadline, everything. The university investigated, and obviously they realized that Chloe had copied my essay. They rejected her immediately, and also put her on a blacklist that they share with other universities, basically ruining her chances of getting into any decent university for the next 2 years. When my parents found out, it was like I had killed someone. My father yelled at me that I had ruined my sister's life out of jealousy. My mother cried, saying, "How could I do that to my own sister?" And Chloe told me she hated me and would never forgive me. Nobody, absolutely nobody in my family acknowledged that she had done something wrong by stealing my work. For them, I was the villain for reporting her. After that, I basically cut contact with them. I left for college as soon as I could, blocked Chloe from everywhere, and only talked to my parents the bare minimum, like 2-minute calls at Christmas and stuff like that. And honestly, I felt free for the first time in my life. I didn't have to watch Chloe getting everything I wanted. I didn't have to listen to my parents talking wonders about her while ignoring me. I could just be myself, without constantly comparing myself to my sister, or feeling like I wasn't enough. In college, I met Nathan in my sophomore year. He was studying engineering and lived in the same apartment building as me. At first, we were just friends, like we'd see each other in the hallway and talk about classes or watch movies with other friends from the building, normal stuff. But after like 6 months, we became very close and eventually started dating. Nathan was everything I had wanted in a partner. He really listened to me when I talked, remembered small details about things I mentioned casually, made me feel important and valued. We dated throughout the rest of college and then another 2 years after we graduated, so in total we were together for like 4 years. When Nathan proposed to me, I felt like I finally had everything I'd always wanted. I had a job I liked. I had a boyfriend who loved me and treated me well. I had incredible friends. And I thought I could finally leave behind all the shit from my childhood and toxic family. The proposal was beautiful. He did it on a hike we did often near a lake. And I said yes immediately because there was no doubt in my mind that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with him. We started planning the wedding for the following year, and everything was going perfect until we got to the guest list. I wanted a small, intimate wedding just with our close friends and some people from Nathan's family because, obviously, I didn't want to invite my family. I explained the whole story to Nathan about the favoritism, the plagiarism, everything. And at first he said he understood and respected my decision. But then his mother Diane got involved and started pressuring him, saying how was he going to get married without his in-laws being present, that it would look bad, that families have problems but a wedding is the perfect opportunity to reconcile and start over. Nathan started repeating those things, saying that maybe Diane was right, that maybe this was an opportunity to fix things with my family, that he really wanted his in-laws to be at our wedding. And I told him over and over that he didn't understand the magnitude of what they had done to me, that it wasn't just a silly fight we could get over, that it was a whole life of mistreatment and a huge betrayal at the end. But he insisted, and I started to feel like maybe I was being too harsh, that maybe I should at least try for Nathan. I finally agreed to invite them to the wedding, but made it very clear to my parents when I called them that this was basically the last chance, that if Chloe did any of her usual shit or if they started with their favoritism, I would kick them all out without thinking twice. My parents said yes, that they understood, that everything was going to be fine. I should have known it was a lie. I should have trusted my instinct. But I wanted so badly to believe that maybe things could get better that I ignored all the warning signs. The wedding was planned for a Saturday in late spring. It was something relatively simple in a nice outdoor venue with like 60 guests. We already had the dress, the venue, the catering, everything paid for and ready. A week before the wedding, my parents asked me to meet for lunch. They said they wanted to give me my wedding gift in person and spend some time with me before the big day. I thought it was a bit strange because we hadn't had that kind of relationship in years, but Nathan encouraged me to go, saying it was a sign that they wanted to make peace. I arrived at the restaurant they had chosen, and when I walked in, I saw my parents sitting at a table. But they weren't alone. Chloe was with them, smiling as if nothing had ever happened between us. I felt the blood rush to my head. I immediately turned around to leave, but my father grabbed my arm and told me, "Wait, please, just listen to us for 5 minutes." I told them no, that this was exactly the kind of shit I had warned them not to do. that I had specifically told them I didn't want Chloe near me, and much less a week before my wedding. My mother started crying, saying they just wanted us to reconcile, that Chloe had changed a lot in these years and wanted to apologize, that we were sisters, and it was ridiculous that we weren't talking. And Chloe started with a speech she had obviously rehearsed about how sorry she was and how much she had matured and that she understood why I was angry but hoped we could start over. It all sounded super fake and manipulative, typical of her, and I didn't believe it for a second. I told them this was an ambush, that I had set clear boundaries and they had completely ignored them, and that if this was their idea of respecting my wishes, then I definitely didn't want them at my wedding. I left the restaurant without looking back while my mother screamed my name and my father said I was being childish. I called Nathan crying on the way back to tell him what had happened, but he didn't answer. I sent him like 5 messages explaining everything and telling him I needed to talk to him urgently, but nothing. When I got to our apartment, Nathan wasn't there, which was weird because we had agreed to spend the afternoon together packing for the honeymoon. I kept calling him, but his phone was off or sent me straight to voicemail. I started to worry, thinking maybe something had happened to him, but his friends told me he was fine, just that he needed time to think. Time to think? About what? About the fact that my family had done exactly what I told them they would do? 1, 2, 3 days went by without hearing from Nathan. We were 5 days away from the wedding, and my future husband was completely ghosting me. His friends wouldn't tell me where he was. His mother Diane wasn't answering my calls either, and I was losing my mind trying to understand what the hell had happened. On the 4th day, I went to his work, and his secretary told me Nathan had taken vacation days, and she didn't know when he'd be back. Literally, nobody wanted to tell me where my fiancé was 4 days before our wedding. On the 5th day, I started canceling things because it was already obvious that something was very wrong. I called the wedding venue and told them we needed to postpone, and they told me I would lose the deposit of several $1,000s, but I had no choice. I canceled the catering, canceled the photographer, called all the guests one by one to tell them the wedding wasn't going to happen. It was humiliating, devastating. I don't have words to describe how horrible it was to have to make those calls without even knowing why I was canceling my own wedding. On the 6th day, 1 day before what was supposed to be my wedding, Nathan finally sent me a message. It just said, "I'm sorry, I can't marry you. This was a mistake." And that was it. 4 years together, a proposal, months planning a wedding, and all I got was a 2-line text message. I responded, demanding an explanation, asking him what had happened, where he had been, but he didn't answer. I spent that night crying nonstop, not understanding anything, feeling like my entire life was falling apart. The next day, the day that was supposed to be the happiest day of, quote, my life, I wake up and start seeing wedding photos on social media, and when I see who the bride and groom are, I feel like I'm going to pass out right there. It's Nathan, marrying Chloe. At the same place where we were supposed to get married, the same day, probably with the same decoration and the same catering that I had canceled but that apparently they reactivated. My fiancé married my twin sister on the day that was supposed to be our wedding. I couldn't breathe. I literally felt like I was drowning. All the pieces started to fit together. The lunch where Chloe appeared, Nathan not answering me, disappearing right after that lunch, everyone protecting him and not telling me where he was. He had been with her, planning to steal everything I had just, like she had stolen my essay years before. My parents had facilitated everything. They had organized that meeting knowing perfectly well what was going to happen next. The following months were the worst of my life. I moved to the smaller apartment because I couldn't afford the one I shared with Nathan alone. I had to get more freelance jobs because my savings had gone to the non-refundable wedding deposits. And I basically spent my time crying or feeling a horrible emptiness in my chest. And my friends tried to help, but there wasn't much they could do except be there when I needed them. I didn't talk to anyone in my family, obviously. I blocked them all from absolutely everything. It took me like 6 months to feel remotely functional again. I started therapy, focused on my work, tried to rebuild my life piece by piece. And just when I was starting to feel like maybe I could get over it, like a year after all that disaster, I get a call from an unknown number. Normally, I don't answer those calls. But for some reason, that time I did. It was Diane, Nathan's mother, crying on the phone saying she needed to talk to me urgently, and that please, would I give her just one chance to explain what had really happened. I told her I wasn't interested in knowing anything, that her son had destroyed my life and that she had been part of that by pressuring me to invite my family. but she kept begging, saying I didn't understand the complete situation, that Nathan had been deceived just like me, that we needed to meet in person because there were things I needed to know. Part of me wanted to tell her to fuck off and hang up, but another part had a horrible curiosity to know what possible explanation could exist for what Nathan and Chloe had done to me. I agreed to meet her at a public cafe, told her she had exactly 30 minutes to say what she had to say. When I arrived, Diane looked terrible, like she had aged 10 years in one. She sat down and started telling me everything, and I swear if I hadn't seen her so destroyed, I wouldn't have believed anything she told me. Turns out that after that lunch when I left, my parents and Chloe stayed talking to Nathan. They told him a completely different version of our entire history, telling him that I was the problematic sister, that I had always been jealous of Chloe, and that I had ruined her life out of envy by reporting a false plagiarism. They told him I was manipulative and abusive, that I had cut contact with my family because they had refused to support my lies about Chloe, that my whole story about the favoritism was pure invention to play the victim. And Chloe apparently burst into tears and told Nathan that she had tried to reconcile with me many times, but that I rejected her cruelly, that she just wanted to have her sister back, but that I hated her for no reason. They showed him screenshots of messages that had been edited to make me look horrible. They told him made-up anecdotes about supposed terrible things I had done. Nathan, according to Diane, was completely shocked because none of that matched the person he knew. But my parents and Chloe were so convincing, so persistent, that he started to doubt. And then Chloe told him that she had always been in love with him, that she had tried to stay away out of respect for her sister, but that she could no longer keep quiet about her feelings, especially now that she knew I wasn't the person he thought I was. She told him that if he married me, he was going to be miserable because I would eventually show my true face, but that she could make him truly happy if he gave her a chance. Nathan left that lunch completely confused and spent the next few days investigating everything my parents had told him, talking to Chloe, letting himself be convinced more and more that I had lied to him about everything. Diane told me she tried to make him see reason, that she told him all that sounded ridiculous and he should talk to me. But Nathan was convinced I was going to manipulate him like I had supposedly manipulated everyone else. So he made the stupidest decision of his life. He canceled our wedding and married Chloe instead. But here comes the part that almost made me laugh at how absurd it is. Diane told me that Nathan told her and his father that the marriage to Chloe was going to be temporary, just so he wouldn't lose all the money they had invested in the wedding and to save the embarrassment of canceling everything. He told them he would marry Chloe, let some prudent time pass, and then they would divorce quietly. Diane thought her son had completely lost his mind, but Nathan was sure it was the perfect solution, that Chloe agreed with the plan because supposedly she just wanted to help him not lose money. Obviously, Chloe never had any intention of divorcing. As soon as they got married, she started acting like they were the perfect couple, posting photos on social media, telling everyone they were deeply in love, refusing any conversation about divorce. Nathan, according to Diane, spent months trying to get Chloe to agree to divorce, but she always had some excuse, that she needed more time, that she was enjoying being married, that maybe they should try to make the marriage really work since they were together. The situation got worse and worse when Nathan started noticing inconsistencies in all the stories that Chloe and my parents had told him. Little things that didn't add up, details that changed every time they mentioned them. And then, like 6 months after getting married, Chloe came home drunk one night and Nathan tried to have the divorce conversation again. She got hysterical, and in the middle of the argument she screamed the whole truth at him, that everything they had told him about me were lies, that she had stolen my essay exactly as I said, that my parents had always preferred her, that I had been the victim my whole life and not the other way around. She confessed that she had been in love with Nathan since she met him years ago when she came to visit me at college once, that she had planned that lunch with my parents specifically to seduce him and take him away from me, that she never intended to divorce because she had finally gotten something I wanted and wasn't going to let it go. She told him all these things as if they were achievements, as if she was proud of having destroyed my life to get what she wanted. Nathan was completely devastated, according to Diane. He realized he had ruined his life and mine by believing the lies of a manipulative sociopath and her toxic family. He tried to divorce immediately, but it turns out Chloe had also lied about her financial situation, and now in the divorce, she was going to ask him for a huge amount of money for alimony because technically she had left her job to dedicate herself to being a housewife in those 6 months, although actually Diane told me that Chloe had never had a stable job to leave. Diane was telling me all this crying, apologizing for not intervening more, saying that Nathan was devastated and hated himself for what he had done to me, that he wanted to talk to me and apologize and explain everything. And I just looked at her thinking, does she really think I care how devastated Nathan is? Does she really think I'm going to feel sorry for him after what he did to me? I told Diane very clearly that I wasn't interested in talking to Nathan, that he had made his decisions and now he had to live with the consequences. I told her that I had spent a whole year rebuilding my life after he destroyed it, and that I wasn't going to let him back in just because now he was sorry. I explained that Nathan had chosen to believe my family instead of trusting me after 4 years together, that he had chosen to marry my sister instead of simply talking to me and clearing things up, that every horrible decision he made was his and his alone. Diane tried to insist, saying Nathan had been manipulated, that Chloe and my parents had deceived him. But I told her that didn't change anything. I told her that a man who really loved me would have trusted me, would have come to talk to me before believing people he barely knew, wouldn't have disappeared for a week and then married my twin sister. I told her that Nathan deserved exactly what he was living through now, trapped in a marriage with a manipulative liar who would never let him go. I left that cafe without looking back, blocked Diane from everywhere, and I haven't heard anything from any of them since then. I know from mutual friends that Nathan is still married to Chloe because the divorce would cost him a fortune. I know he's miserable. I know my parents are having problems with Chloe now because she constantly demands money from them and blames them for not getting her a favorable divorce. And honestly, I don't feel anything when I hear these things. Not satisfaction or pity, just emptiness. I've moved on with my life the best I can. I have my work, I have my friends, I've dated a couple of people, though nothing serious yet because it's hard to trust after everything that happened. A couple of months ago, I started seeing someone new, a guy I met at a networking event, and he's kind and patient and doesn't pressure me about anything. I don't know if it's going to work long term, but I'm trying to give it a chance without letting my past ruin things. Sometimes I think about what my life would be like if Nathan had trusted me, if he had come to talk to me instead of believing Chloe and my parents. We'd probably be married. Maybe we'd have kids. We'd be happy. But then I remember that a man who can be manipulated so easily to abandon the woman he supposedly loves isn't the kind of man I want to spend my life with anyway. Nathan showed me exactly who he was when things got difficult, and the truth is, he saved me from making the mistake of marrying someone who didn't deserve me. Last week, I was organizing some old files on my computer and found photos of Nathan and me together from when we were happy and everything seemed perfect. I looked at them for a few minutes, feeling a weird nostalgia. Not for him specifically, but for the life I thought I was going to have. Then I deleted them all without thinking twice. That version of me who loved Nathan and trusted that he would always be there doesn't exist anymore. And that's okay. And the person I am now is stronger, smarter, more careful about who I give my trust to. And that's enough for now, I guess.